I am Jessica Clark, the Teresa Mack Germans from Russia History Fellow and Coordinator for the Germans from Russia Oral History Project. It is a pleasure to visit with ElRoy Fischer in Gackle, North Dakota. To start with, can you state your full name?
Speak up a little louder.
Okay. Can you state your full name?
ElRoy Melvin Fischer.
Okay. And date of birth?
March 10th, 1923.
And where were you born?
In Germania Township.
Okay. Did your parents ever share a story about your birth with you? Such as, were you born on a farm?
Yes, I was born on the farm.
Okay. Was a midwife present or a doctor?
No, it was midwife.
Midwife?
Sure, yeah.
Midwife? Okay. What is your first memory, your earliest childhood memory that you think is your earliest childhood memory?
Well, I guess the most that I remember is when I went to school. The first year I got appendicitis and I was home for a month or 6 weeks.
Oh.
So I didn't.
So did they call out a doctor when you get appendicitis, or what did they do to take care of that?
Well, they took me to Jamestown to the hospital, and I was in there for a long time till I could get out.
Okay. Was that pretty scary for you?
Yeah, it was, kind of.
Did they actually take your appendix out?
Mm-hmm.
Take your appendix
Yes,
out? Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they did.
When you think back to growing up, what was it like growing up on the plains?
Oh, it was okay. I mean, it was cold, I know. Cold and stormy weather, a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
How would you describe the summer months?
Summer months, well, they were all right too, but you had to work, but it was nice, you know.
Okay.
Have some help. Some of my cousins had come out, you know, and we'd work in the hayfield and whatever we had to do, fix fence, everything like that.
So summer was work time.
Yeah, work time, that's right. Yeah.
What was winters like?
Winters?
Yeah.
Well, then I went to school and stuff, and had a teacher in board here, and then I had to be real good because my dad had asked the teacher, he was supposed to help put wood in there and get some coal for the teacher. So I was always kind of under the gun, you know. I had to do all that. At night he'd ask the teacher if I helped get wood and get coal and stuff like that. So I had to be good, or otherwise I was in trouble.
Do you remember what the teacher's name was that stayed with you?
Doreen Amick, she was from Bella City.
Oh, okay. And how long did she stay with your family?
3 years.
Okay. So for
then
those 3 years you were...
Then we had a different one. We had mostly men.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So was it, you had more men teachers than growing up than you
Yeah.
did women? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when the woman teacher came, you were expected to help her.
Yeah. Yeah, and my dad had asked all the time, you know, and she'd say it, so I had to be good.
So how far was the school from your farm?
Mile north we went with, we rode with the horses.
Okay.
Teacher and I did every day. We rode to school.
What time did school usually start back then?
It started at 9, and it was only for 7 months.
Oh.
We'd had school only 7 months, not 9.
Is that because of farming season? You
Yeah.
needed to be back in.
And in the winter, we just had a half an hour recess at noon, you know, so we could go home earlier.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We went home left school at 3:30 instead of 4.
Oh, okay.
So then we all went home.
When you think back to your childhood, what was your favorite time of year? Your favorite season?
I liked it in the spring,
Spring?
March, when the geese were flying. And I enjoyed that. Springtime was my favorite month.
When you think back, did you know your mom's parents, your grandparents on your mother's side?
Yes, not all of them, but I knew most of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you close to your mother's family?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your grandmother's name?
Oh gosh. Oh, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Elizabeth? How would you describe your grandmother?
Well, she stayed with us for I don't know just how long, but she was nice. She was good to get along with.
When she stayed with you, where would she sleep?
She had her own room. She had her own room.
Okay.
Slept here. I don't know how long she was here, though. That I don't know. Ruth maybe would know, but I don't.
Okay.
Whatever.
How about your grandfather? What was his name?
I never knew him.
You never knew your grandfather?
No, I was 2 years old when he died.
Okay.
I never knew him.
Do you know how he died?
Really, I really don't know for sure. But I think most was heart trouble, a lot of it anyway. But
A lot of hard work.
yeah,
There's a lot
I
of
never,
sugar.
yeah, I never got to know him.
Okay. How many children did your grandparents have on that side of the family? How many brothers and sisters did your mom have?
14?
Oh, a
14.
large family. A large family.
I didn't know them all, but that's what they had total.
Oh, okay. Who were you closest to out of the 14 children?
I had one uncle that stayed out here a lot. He was my favorite all the time.
What was his name?
Ray Schmidt, and then Walter was another one that they were on my mother's side, brother of my mother.
How would you describe Ray?
Oh, he was always kind of full of the devil. Walter, he was a teacher. He was a school teacher. He taught down south of here, Gackle, not too far. Well, there were Leroy Pressler's lived where that schoolhouse is. That's the school that he taught.
Oh, great. Well, we went and took pictures of that. We went
Yeah,
inside of it the other
that's
day.
where he taught, yeah.
Okay. Well, when you think about your dad's side of the family, did you know his parents?
Yes, I knew his folks.
Okay. And what's your grandmother's name on that side?
God. I should, oh yeah, I can look here.
Well, if we have it there too, we can always look it up.
Okay.
And add that in, so that's not a big deal. When you think back to your grandmother, how would you describe her?
Oh, she was nice.
Was
Nice
she?
lady, yeah, hard worker.
Okay.
They had quite a big family too, so.
Where did they live in relation to your farm?
They just lived 2 miles west of here.
West of here? Okay.
Yeah, that's where they
So did you
come.
get to see them often, or?
Yeah, quite often. Yeah, quite often. Then they moved to Streeter
Oh, did they?
or later on, yeah.
Okay.
That's where they lived there quite a while.
When you think about your grandfather, do you know what his name was?
Fred F. Fischer.
Fred F. Fischer?
Mm-hmm.
Your grandfather.
Oh, well, yeah, well, Fred. His name was Fred. Fred,
Frederick.
yeah.
Frederick Fischer?
My dad's was Fred F.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So your grandfather's is Frederick Fischer.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe your grandfather?
Well, I didn't know him too well. I knew him, but not too well. Oh, he was all right. Nothing. I mean, yeah. He died at kind of early age too. I mean, yeah. Didn't get very old, them people.
They worked a lot. So
Yeah.
Cuts down and not a lot of medical care.
Yeah.
When you, how many kids did they have? How many brothers and sisters did your dad have?
I think it was 8, if I'm not mistaken.
So you still had a larger family too.
There was 8 of them, I believe, yeah.
8 of them?
Mm-hmm.
Were you close to any of them on that side of the family?
Oh, yes. Them that were around here, a lot of them weren't here, but I mean, a lot of them that were around, oh, yes. A lot close.
Okay.
Gottlieb was the baby of the family. If I wanted to know something, that he'd be the one to ask.
He'd be the one to ask?
Yeah, yeah.
Just tell me. Okay. I think we had talked about both sets of grandparents, and we were talking, I think, about your dad's brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And you were just had said Gottlieb was the man to go to, I think.
Yeah.
Was there anybody else that you had a close relationship?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I had another one. Fred Wolf was another one.
Okay.
But after they passed away, now there was nobody left no more.
So you said your grandpa's name was Frederick?
Frederick Fischer.
Okay. And your dad's name was Fred.
Fred F.
And
Fischer.
then you had an uncle named Fred? Then you had an uncle named Fred as well?
Fred Wolf, yeah.
Fred Wolf?
Fred.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
Fred was a very common name back then.
Yeah.
When you think about your grandparents on both sides, did they speak English or did they speak German?
They speak mostly always German.
Okay.
They did some English, but German, you'd come over there, you had to know German because Grandpa would talk German to you.
Okay.
He was always talking German and not too much English.
But they did know English?
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
Yeah, they knew English. But them years, everything was German, wherever you went.
So you didn't need English
Yeah,
to...
yeah. Yeah.
When you would go over to your grandparents' house, what types of things would you do?
Well, sit and listen mostly.
Okay. They told a lot of stories or...
Well, different things, yeah. I knew. There wasn't too many other ones around. I mean, my age or that at that time. So that's, we had to listen to the stories that they said.
Do you remember any of the stories that they were telling you when you were a kid? Things they would talk about?
Well, yeah. It talked about school a little bit and stuff like that, but other than that, they didn't. And they didn't.
When you think back to your dad, well, first, what was your dad's name? Your dad's name was Fred F. Fischer?
Fischer, yes.
Okay. And do you know when he was born?
In 1896.
1896. And do you know where he was born? Was he born in the U.S. or over in Russia?
He was born, gosh, I gotta look.
That's fine.
My grandpa, you said?
Your dad.
My dad.
Your dad.
1896 he was born.
1896? And
Yeah.
was that in Russia or?
No, here.
Here?
He was
Here?
born here.
He was born
yeah.
here?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How old was your dad when he passed away?
My dad passed away in 66.
66?
Yeah.
Okay. What did he pass away from?
Heart, I guess, he had a heart attack. He was in a veterans hospital in Fargo.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were through that big storm in 66. We were going that day, taking him to Fargo to the veterans hospital.
Oh.
We never got home. Then it was for the Wednesdays we left, and we never got home until Sunday with all that blizzard, that big blizzard. Then there was two families that were on the road and had an accident, and we picked them up and brought them home. We pushed the cars in the ditch so they'd be off the road, and then they went with us, and we got as far as Davella City. That's where we should have stayed, but well, we were going to try Jamestown, you know. And, well, we got to Jamestown and a little south of Jamestown. After that, we couldn't see no more. When we turned west again, going home on 46,
Okay.
well, we couldn't see nothing. We only drove maybe about a block or so, and we couldn't see. So we kind of turned around and got back to that gas station that was a little ways away, right coming out of south of Jamestown.
Okay.
That's where we stayed then the 3 days.
Stayed 3 days.
There was 26 of us there at that house.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Some people were coming home from Texas, and they got snowbound there. So they were there. And the man, the grandpa, he couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair. And then we carried him in the house and stuff. They had bought a big sack of oranges and grapefruit. And till we were all done, everything was pretty going.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, that was
Sounds like
quite a deal.
Let's see here. How would you describe your dad? What type of man was your dad?
Oh, he was good. He was a favorite guy for me. Yeah, he was always nice, my dad. Hard worker. He was a hard worker.
What type of work did he do?
Well, on the farm, and then he would buy some broncs coming in from Montana, and we'd break them, and then we'd sell them.
Really?
Yeah, we'd sell them. They got a guy named T.G. He was from Nebraska. He come pretty near every other year for sure for horses. They couldn't, they always were short of horses. And they didn't have no pastures down there. They had to feed their horses and cattle year round,
Okay.
Dry feeding them, and they needed horses all the time. So that's where, and then the mailman, my dad broke a bit of good team for the mailman. So he had come with a sled and had a good teams for them. Yeah, we used to have a lot of horses in the years.
How many horses would you say you had during your childhood?
Oh, I had 37 of them in 38 and 39 myself.
Okay.
But then you could buy them. I bought 8 of them for $40. I never seen a one till I went out to get them.
Oh my goodness.
Then I sold 2 of them for $45, and I still had 6 left.
That's turning a profit.
Yeah.
What about your mom? What was your mom's name?
Bertha.
Bertha?
Bertha Fischer, yeah.
And when was she born?
In 1899.
And where was she born? Was she born in the
Yeah,
U.S.?
yeah, in Germania Township too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How would you describe your mom? What type of person was she?
Well, she was fine as far as that goes, but she thought we were risking our too much with the broncs.
So she wasn't a big fan.
She was, yeah, she was always kind of worried because there were all kinds of them. They were pretty tough, them horses. So, but we always got along good.
When you think back to your mom and dad, who was the strict one in the family?
Oh, my dad was. When he said no, it was no.
Okay.
Yeah. I drove to town to the carnivals when I was 8 years old.
Really?
With the car, yeah.
Oh.
He told me where to drive, so I'm on a safe place. Oh, he told me how to drive there, and when you got all the rides that were in there that you want to ride, he said, then you come home. Because don't stay so late if the carnival will be out and then you'd be in the way for people in the road. He said, go home before the crowd goes.
Oh, okay. He wanted you home before everybody else saw that you were driving.
Get out of there before all the cars go.
So how old were you when you learned how to drive?
Well, I'd sit on my dad's lap when I was 6, 7,
Okay.
I drove then a lot. I and him, when we went someplace, to the neighbor or something, I drove. It wasn't as strict as now, but I drove all the time.
What type of car did your dad have?
Oldsmobile. And my grandpa had one like that too, a different color.
Okay.
Yeah, they were pretty nice cars. They had the big trunk in the back, Not with a door. It was a trunk you opened up on top.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Do you know how he purchased that car? How he came to buy that car?
Gosh, well, there was dealers in Streeter and there was dealers in Gackle, but where he just got that one, I don't know. He didn't buy it new, but I don't know just where he got it.
Okay.
But he had a brand new Dodge Coupe, and he didn't drive that too much. Anyway, but then at one later on he did it when it was nicer, and we had a rain and the guy put some straw and stuff in the roots, to get through.
Okay.
And my dad went to town, and he got in that place where all that mud was, where these guys had filled with straw and dirt and stuff, and he got stuck. So anyway, it wasn't too far from the house where that happened. And then he went home to get horses, was going to pull it out. When he come back, the car was burning. The exhaust pipe and stuff, had straw underneath.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, that burned right on the road.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it burned right on the road. After that, my dad did not buy no new stuff no more. 1934, our barn burned down. It was on a Saturday night. Our barn burned down, and Mondays the thrashing rig was supposed to come. Would have been coming to thrash. Here we didn't have no more barn or nothing, and then we had to put up a fence, and so they could tie their horses and put hay in there so they could tie their horses up and feed them and everything. But I can still see that burning. That was in 1934.
Do they know how it caught on fire?
Really not. Well, I don't know. We didn't have no electricity or nothing, but I really don't know how. We really didn't know how. And we had a new machine shed built not far from the barn. We tried to save that, but we couldn't save that either. We had 50-gallon barrels of gas in the shed. It was a ways away, but they started exploding, and then we had to get out. We had to get it going.
Oh, my goodness.
That after them 50-gallon barrels busted, you had to get away. Everything was fire.
Did you lose a lot of farm equipment?
Yes, all of it. We had all new drills and all. The machinery was all new because it was. My dad had bought everything new that time, and so we had it all in the barn and in the lanes, and in the machine shed we had a lot of stuff. Only we didn't have the doors on yet. We had a big case tractor that he used for breaking up the ground, and we didn't put that in. We didn't have the doors on there, so we said, well, we'll do that the next day, Sunday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
Get it out of the way. But then everything was burned down. So the tractor never burned. We pulled it back.
Oh, good.
So it wasn't in the fire. But if the doors would have been on, he would have been in too. But Dad said, we'll do that tomorrow. Put the doors on, and then we'll put them in.
Oh,
But that didn't happen.
Did you have any animals in the barn?
No, we didn't have no live animals.
What did your dad end up doing how did he rebuild that and fix the loss that he faced?
Well, I don't know how they had insurance. I was pretty small.
Okay.
I was born on 23, 10, 34.
So 12?
12, yeah.
12?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I didn't know too much about that part.
Yeah, you just saw the big fire.
Yeah. I could still see it. I can still see it today.
Was that a big mess to clean up afterwards?
Oh, yeah. Big, we had a big barn and 2 lanes on it, and then the machine shed was maybe from out here to your car away.
Mm.
Yeah, we had everything inside. We had everything out of the way during the thrashing deal, you know. But that's what happened.
Oh my goodness. So to replace the barn, did your dad go and take a barn from somewhere else, or did he build a barn?
He built a barn.
He built a new barn?
He built a barn.
Did you help with that process?
Yeah, what I could. Yeah, what I could. Yeah.
Do you remember how long it took your dad to rebuild the barn?
Well, that would have been 1935, I think. That same 34. It happened in 35, because we had to get thrashed, and then we had to get that barn built, you know, and different things. That were before winter, as the winters were tough. Yeah, a lot of times, you know, this road wasn't. We always drove around this way, not out this way. So, well, the snowstorm had come, or the first one, you know. Well, that wasn't too bad, being there was no snow before, but Dad would say, well, you better take the pony and ride around, see if the road is open. Well, I knew already where the road would be closed, but I drove around. I come home. Well, he said, how is the road? I said, it's good under the snow. I said, we can't drive no more. I said, we got to do a lot of shoveling. No, he said, that's no use to shovel, you know, and that wasn't sloped or nothing. There were straight cuts. So he said, well, now we'll go and jack up the car, put blocks under it so the wheel tires weren't on the ground. They were off the ground, jacked it up, put it on blocks, let it set. And I said, now we'll get the sled out. Okay, so we got the sled out. We got the sled ready to go. Go to town, you'd go to sled and get your stuff and go home. Huh. Take the cream in on a Wednesday and on a Saturday. And Mom would give me a slip what I have to bring if she never went along too much. Okay. So she'd give me a slip, and my uncle had a store there in town. So it worked out pretty good. I'd give him the slip. I'd get the cream cans, put them back on the sled, you know, everything ready what I'm supposed to get in and pay for the groceries and put them on the sleigh and cover them up and go home.
Huh. So the sleighs came in handy back then.
Yeah.
They seem to come in handy today, too.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, we never drove no more, you know, and when we went for company, it always was with the sleigh. Okay. Nobody, you know, if you just would have one place to shovel, that would be all right. But, you know, that was straight grade. That was closed right away, and nobody even tried to do it.
To put it on the record, you are living now and have always lived on this farm.
Yes.
This was your parents' farm?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad come home from the Army. He was in the service. Okay. World War I.
World War I?
He left in 1917, and he come back in 1999. 1919. Yeah. Okay. And then they built here. Okay. This was done by Sears Roebuck, that other house.
Really?
Yeah, that was a pre-cut and everything.
Oh my goodness.
There was another family in town that bought one through Sears Roebuck when my dad did. Okay. And that was always set together, you know. You could set it, big areas that was all cut and set. All you had to do was set it together and fix it. Huh. Yeah. Okay. That home burned in 54.
And that when you and Ruth were living in it, right?
Yeah, 54. The 16th of December, it burned. Mom and Ruth and I, we went to Jamestown. And my dad and my oldest girl, when she was going to school, and we we were milking cows then, and it was pretty cold, but we wanted to do the Christmas shopping quick. So we left, and about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I said you should water the milk cows, give them water and then put them back in the barn and stuff. So we took off. It was about 4:30, something like that, when we come home. And I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know what it was. My dad was full of stuff, and the girl I know had cried, but they didn't say nothing. I said, what's the matter? There's something wrong. Yeah, Dad said, there is something bad wrong. I said, what happened? Oh, he said, your house burned down. And then I said, well, what about we had a garage and everything beside the house a ways away. He said, that burned too. So he said, now what are we going to do? I said, well, we'll have to stay at your place a while till we find something. So that's where we stayed about a month.
Okay.
Over January.
Okay.
And then there was a place where there was a little house for sale. It was only a 2-bedroom outfit. Well, attic up there, which we didn't use, but then I bought that for $300, and I moved it out and put sand around it for a foundation, banked it shut with sand on the side. And then we lived in there that winter, and then the next summer we built this.
Okay.
We built that, started building it in August. And we had some relation that were carpenters over in Streeter on my mom's side.
Okay.
And they built the house, and we got everything done. The day before Thanksgiving, we moved in here.
Oh, so you got to celebrate the holidays.
Boy, that was a real deal when you. And for Christmas, we got a TV from our folks. Oh, and electricity come in.
Was that the first TV that you had ever
Yes.
got? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was that
Philco was the name of the TV.
Philco?
Yeah. Oh boy. And we had electric lights. God, that was everything was perfect. Yeah.
Quite a different life with electricity.
Oh yeah, it was real different.
What year was that again?
In 55 when
55?
we burned, yeah. In 54 it burned down, and in December.
So when the house burned down, you lost a lot of photographs, all the
Yeah,
photographs.
yeah, we lost, things that you can't get no more. That's what really hurts. The things you could get again, well, then it didn't feel so bad. But there was like pictures, different things, that you got that you would never give up. Yeah. But we couldn't get them no more, so we had to settle.
Yeah, what can you do?
Yeah, that's right. What can you do? That's true. And we had such bad winters that in the 50s. It was terrible in 50 and 51 when we got the electricity. Finally, later on, then, they were working on it, but they couldn't finish because the weather got so bad. They had to quit. They had the poles and everything in it. We could have been a whole year ahead with electricity, but then the winters got so bad, then they couldn't get through.
North Dakota's unpredictable weather.
Yeah, that was snow. We had the poles and everything, and they didn't have them tamped, but they had them in the ground already. And then their crew was supposed to come and tamp these poles, and then a bunch had come for the wire and then put up the wires. But at last it wouldn't work. They had 1.5 ton truck and had a little snowplow in front, but that didn't mean nothing no more. So everything was at a standstill. That's when the train got stuck there for over a week.
Really?
Just from the road where that
The main road?
went, yeah, coming up. Just about 2 blocks to the west.
Okay.
There it was stuck for about 10 days. And, well, nobody drove, you know. You couldn't drive. You just went with the horses and did what you did, you know. So that was that place where it always closed about 3 blocks up from the 46th. That's where it blocked so bad all the time. So, well, that was deep, you know, high. And people that drive through with the sleds, you know, and bank it up. It'd get high and hard, you know. And the train was stuck in there. The guys would go out and shovel, walk out, stayed in the depot in Gackle, and the crew would walk out, you know, in the morning and do shoveling, trying to getting some of that snow away so they could get out. See, they would have to be pulled out backwards because they were stuck in snow that high, you know. They couldn't there was no chance getting out. So anyway, that's what they did. They got the train shoveled out so it was free. And then the big boy from Fargo come, the Rotary. Okay. And he come up, and then he pulled it backwards to town, to the switch, you know. And then he got him to the side, then he come. He worked for days. You could hear him howling. That big Rotary, that was flying, the snow was deep, you know. He'd drive about 40 feet, and there he was stuck. You could hear it on the rails. Back up and go at it again. And he did that for quite some time till we got through Streeter and turned around and back. Streeter was the end of the line. And then they did go down to Fargo, as far as Fargo, but they'd pick up cream at pretty near every station, every town. Really? That's where we put the cream, yeah. Well, each little town, you know, was farmers and the cream. Everybody put their milk. That was the living then. Okay. And, well, that took a day. That'd be late at night till the train would get to Fargo. Well, then they'd do the unloading and filling or getting the empty cans on, as many as they got off. And then the next day he'd come back, and it took all day for him to get to Streeter. You know, he'd stop at every little town and have to dump everything, and then he'd go again. Oh, my goodness. I rode on it one time down to Fargo. I said, never again, I said, in the caboose. That was a rough riding little son of a gun.
How old were you when you did that?
Huh?
How old were you?
I was maybe about 14.
Really?
Oh, God, I thought we'd never get there. My uncle, you know, and then they shipped the cattle. My uncle shipped some cattle, and he took me along. Okay. See, they were all in the boxcars. They'd take them to Fargo, and they'd sell them there in Fargo, and there was a lot of that done on the train, yeah, at first, yeah. There was no trucks and stuff, you know, I mean, to haul stuff like that. Yeah, there was none of the bigger trucks. And there was no trucks, well, if you had a car, that's all. You didn't know nothing about a truck because they weren't that way. You didn't find them like you did now. There was nothing. Riding on the train? Pardon? You didn't like riding on the train? No, not in that caboose. That was, bing, it always jumping. You could never sleep if you ever wanted to. I could see some guy would sit there on the side and he was sleeping. I said to myself, how can you sleep when ting, ting when the rails.
So how long of a ride was it from here to Fargo?
Pardon?
How long of a train ride was it to Fargo?
Well, pretty near the whole day.
Whole day?
Yeah.
So did you ride right back to Gackle from Fargo?
Well, no, we had to wait. You know, but we didn't sleep until we start going back, but nobody could sleep on that caboose. That was that light outfit. Did it jump? Oh, we never slept a wink anyway. I didn't.
So it was a tiring trip.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Yeah. What do you think? But that's the way they used to do it all the time. Yeah. Till finally it got better. There were cream stations and stuff. Then you could unload in town and get your groceries. And you had everything you went home.
A lot easier.
Yeah. The sleigh in the wintertime and the car in the summer. But there was no snow shoveling because we had enough snow shoveling to do at home without going out in the road. So we never, well, they didn't slope, they didn't slope the roads that the snow would blow away. It was a straight cut. That's the way the railroad was too. That was just straight cuts. And you'd get a blizzard for 3 days, about 15 below, snowing, colder.
So how did you stay warm in the winter? I mean, when you have to go out and do all this work, what type of clothes?
Well, we had sheepskins. We had good clothes and big heavy gloves, that'd go up to here, especially when you drove to town, with the horses and stuff. You had to be dressed good, otherwise it was too cold. And a lot of times there was a lot of snow. It wasn't that you'd get on and say, well, I'm in town right away. And we weren't far from town. But we had a detour a lot. You couldn't go straight across, If you could, well, that wouldn't have been bad. But there was snowbanks as high as this in here, Well, we had to go around with them, It was too deep for the horses. So there was big snowbanks.
Oh, my goodness.
And a lot of cold weather. A lot of cold.
When you think back to your parents when you were growing up, how would you describe their marriage? Did they get along real well?
Yeah,
Were they really
yeah,
close
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we never had no problem. Never did.
And you were an only child, is that right?
Yeah, I was the good one and the bad one.
Good one and the bad one.
Mostly good.
Did your parents want more children, or did you just want one children?
Well, I always said I wanted a sister. I always said I wanted a sister, but that never happened, so. But I was always would have liked a sister.
Okay. So growing up, what would you do to entertain yourself?
Oh, well, I'd ride to town with the pony. I did that a lot too. And I'd go riding, go to the roller skate. They'd have roller skating later on in the years, yeah. And then they had a movie. We had a movie theater. We'd go to the movies, 10 cents. 10 cents.
I couldn't even imagine that.
Yeah, it cost 10 cents.
I thought $5 was cheap.
Yeah, well, that is a lot of places you won't get there for no more.
Now anymore it's $8, $9.
Yeah, that was one thing that helped. Then we could go in the bar and we'd play pool.
Really?
We could play pool.
Okay.
That we could do.
Okay.
But that was kind of a big deal too. But then in the winter it was mostly sleigh riding. We'd go to town, and a lot of times I'd let my sled in town, and I'd ride in with the pony, and a whole bunch of us would be riding, riding sleighs. Then I'd go home again.
Okay. So you did a lot of pastime activities in town with the town's kids?
Yes, yeah, I had a lot of relation, uncles, dad, yeah, there was a lot of relation, and everybody knew everybody.
I think they still do.
Yeah.
In the small town.
Yeah.
When you think back to the house that you and Ruth lived in before it burned down, that was the house that you were actually raised in, right?
That I moved out?
The one that burnt down?
Oh, the one that burnt down.
That was the house that you were raised in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you think about that house, can you describe what it looked like? How many rooms are in the house? And how was it set up?
Well, it was upstairs.
Okay.
That's where we slept, upstairs.
Okay.
And there was 2 bedrooms there.
Okay.
And down we had a kitchen and a parlor. And downstairs, main thing.
Okay.
And I had a porch. We had a porch, an entry porch to
Okay.
go on.
When you were growing up, how would you keep the house warm? What would you use to keep it
Well,
warm?
we did use coal. We had to get coal from town.
Okay.
And then we had a full basement under it, under that other house too. Then we had a coal bin there and in the basement. We went into town with the horses in the wagon and got the coal.
How often did you have to get coal?
Well, it just depended on the winter, but it was enough a lot of times, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could buy it. You'd get about 2.5 ton on a ordinary wagon box and wagon to load up. 2 loads, 3 that you got. And then when we got low, we just had to go and get some more. Then when the snow was, we'd take the sleigh a lot and, get the coal, not the wagons. But when there was no snow, it'd been earlier right away, then we always got a load or 2 that, in case it would come overnight, so we had some.
Do you remember if it was pretty expensive to use coal, if it cost a lot?
No, it wasn't. Well, at that time, they'd say they would, but it was, you'd maybe pay $3 a ton or something like that, $2.50 a ton.
Okay.
It was pretty reasonable then, but $2 were hard to come by too
Yeah.
at that time. Well, old money was, old time.
So would the coal keep the entire house pretty warm, or would it just keep the room where the...
No, we had a furnace, in
Okay.
the basement. Had a furnace. It kept it warm.
So in the summer months, how did you keep food cold or cool?
Well, that was another thing that we just had to take it the way it come. There was no other way, I guess, to get by. A lot of times it was so ungodly hot at night to sleep, but we had all the windows open and everything, but it still was too hot.
One of the questions that I usually ask is, can you describe how the farm was set up? But I think for that, in a little bit we'll go outside and you can actually show me where the buildings used to be and how it was set
Oh,
up.
well, just a little north of here, that the barn was closer towards the road.
Okay.
And the house was on the same place as this one is.
As this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll take the video camera out there and get a shot of how it was set up, because that'll give us a good visual to put with the story of how it was set up and where
Yeah.
things were at. What type of furniture did your parents have in the house when you were growing up? Did they have like a Davenport or...
Well, no, not at first. We didn't.
Okay.
Mostly chairs and table.
Okay.
Really didn't have
Did you have
no
two beds
Davenports then.
in your bedroom? Did you have a bed and in both of the bedrooms your parents had a bed and you had a bed?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. You mentioned that you there was 2 rooms upstairs, one for you and one for your parents. Is that how many bedrooms there were?
2 bedrooms upstairs.
Upstairs. So when you boarded the teachers or your grandmother came to live with you, where would they sleep?
Well, see, then my folks weren't living out here no more.
Oh, when your grandmother lived with you?
Yeah, they weren't living out. They were, my
They were
dad
just
and mom moved in 43. They moved in the same year when we got married.
Okay.
What? Yeah.
When you were growing up and you boarded the teachers, where would the teachers stay?
They had 1 room upstairs then.
1 room upstairs? Okay.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, did you ever have a nickname?
Pardon?
Did you have a nickname when you were a kid?
Not really.
Not really?
No.
You mentioned that your grandparents spoke German primarily. In your home, when you were growing up, what did you speak?
We did, well, when I was little, it was German too. Later on, there was more English taught.
Okay.
I didn't know too much English when I started school.
Okay, so mostly German until you
Yeah,
started school.
Everybody talked German. When you talk to somebody, they always talk German to you.
When
So.
you started going to school and then you were old enough to go into town to play with the town's kids, when you were playing, would you speak German to your friends?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Yeah, that.
Since you were an only child, did you ever have to help your mom with household chores, domestic chores?
Not too much. Oh, I'd get coal and stuff like that too, but I mean, other than that, when my dad went out, I went out.
Okay, so your mom still did the cooking, the cleaning, and all of that.
I'd maybe come in for a jelly sandwich, but then I'd go right away again.
You didn't want to be in the house for that.
No. No.
Okay. How about a garden? I'm assuming your mom had a pretty good garden.
Yeah, it was the same place.
Same place as you have yours now?
Only it was bigger.
It was bigger now?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you help with the gardening at all?
Oh, some things. I'd help dig potatoes and stuff, but that's about as far as it went.
Most of that was your mom too? Were there any chores around the house that your father would help your mother with?
Oh, yes. A lot of things that he'd help. Whenever he had time, he'd help all the time, yeah.
Did your mom go out to the field and help in the field?
Yes, she did. Yeah. Then when I got a little older, then I had to go out, and my mom stayed home more or less then.
Oh, okay.
But when I got bigger, then I helped.
So as soon as you could go out, your mom could stay home and
Yeah.
do the stuff around.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was one job I really hated, and that was harrowing the land after it was seeded and you'd level it out. And at first, you should have had it. There were 6 horses on there, and you had to walk behind that drags all day. That's what I didn't like. And then we finally decided we got a pony. I'm going to ride, stay on the pony, and handle the horses from the pony. I didn't no more walking. That was it. No more.
Anything to avoid that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a must, You had to, and you walk all day in a field that's soft, you'd sink down about that far, God darn it, that was hard.
How would you get stuck at all?
No, but it's just about play out. And a lot of times when I was far from home, I had land way over west, and then my dad would say, just ride one horse on that harrow thing. Then I'd ride on one horse and steer him from the horse, the lines. Then it felt a little better not walking all the time. And then we had a good pony. My mom used to have a pony, and she'd get the cows with that horse all the time when we were out in the fields. So that was that horse's job after we caught on that she's going to be the horse that will ride instead of walk. That was a tough job.
When we took a little break, you had mentioned what your grandfather had told you about why they came and settled in this region and what they were looking for. Can you restate that for the camera?
Yeah, it was a water problem that they had over in Russia. There was never enough water. They had to go miles and miles sometimes to get water for enough. They couldn't be big farmers because there was no water in whole Russia anyway on that area where they all lived. Okay. So that was one reason. They only had a few cows and a few horses to go. They couldn't have a bunch of sheep or nothing. They had sheep, but not. When my grandpa come back, well, that was one of the deals that he said he always liked to do is have some sheep. They used to eat mutton. Well, it's good. It's good. There's no problem. But he said, and you had food and you didn't have a big critter to, give water and feed. The sheep were easier to tend to. He said you could never be a big farmer over there because the water where they were was never there.
Okay.
And I know when our well broke once, and our wells are only 20 feet deep. But if you have to go and haul water in the winter sometime, well, that's about the poorest job you can get when it's cold.
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
You know, you'd have barrels, 50-gallon barrels, you'd fill them. Well, people would have to drive 2-3 miles, you know. Well, if they didn't use it right away, it was froze, you know, it was froze. I know I had a guy that milked a lot of cows. He didn't have no range cows, he just milked. He milked quite a few. But the poor guy had to haul water. He had to go a half mile to a different well and fill these 4 barrels at one time, and then he'd give them their water and go back and get some more, you know. And oh, he did that for a long, long time. Finally, this big company that come into Jamestown, they finally found him water, but he had to go down deep. But what a relief for him. Yeah, he said he didn't know how good he had it then, but at the times then, you know, there was nothing. You dug, in 34, I and my dad dug a well right out here in the house that's 22 feet deep.
Really?
And my uncle was living on a farm northeast of here. And he said to my dad, "You're crazy. What are you in 34? You're crazy." He said, "You know you won't get no water." Yeah, he said, "When you get water on a hill, you'll never run out." My dad said, he'd be down and I'd fill a 5-gallon pail and I'd have tied a rope. We tied a rope, and I'd pull that up and dump the dirt and let the pail down and fill it. It was a slow progress. Finally, it got too deep, the well, and I couldn't handle it no more. I wasn't very old yet then, and it got too heavy. So, well, we had a big horse, Sandy was his name. Dad said, "We're going to hook him up. He'll pull it up." So we fixed the deal out here with the rope on the pail, a bigger pail. Sandy'd walk ahead and come up, and I'd dump it, and Sandy backed up, and I let the rope down or let the pail down. That's the way it went on for weeks and weeks.
Oh, my goodness.
Always dry dirt, always dry dirt. Oh, I said to myself sometime, I don't think we'll ever drink water out of that place. I said to Dad, "I think so. We gave up." "No, sir," he said, "I'm not giving up. I'm going to get some water here." You know, and then it was getting pretty cold already. Not that it was freezing, but it was getting cold. I said to Dad, "Yet, I don't know, we still got dry dirt." I said, "We've got to change or else we better cover the hole for the winter." "Oh, no," he said, "we'll get water. It's coming." Okay. Keep it up another week. Finally, it was a little wet dirt. "Yeah," he said, "now we're not too far away from it no more. It's always wet dirt," and it was. So every night we'd cover the hole, you know, with something so nothing would fall in. In the morning, that's the first thing my dad would do. He'd get up and he'd go out and look if there's any water in the bottom. He'd come in, we'd eat breakfast. I said, "Pa, how is the water hole now?" "Well," he said, "it's a little better, but there's no water yet." So we did it a long time. It was getting cold. It was getting cold. Finally, one morning, he said, "We got water." Okay. Oh, boy. And we dug and dug. So we'd another 2-3 feet, you know. Well, he said, "We're going to put a cistern pump, them pumps that they weren't for deep well, you know, you pump by hand.
Uh-huh.
Cistern pump, they called them. We'll pipe it down, and then we made a hole through the cement and put it in the basement, you know. And then it didn't freeze, you know, and everything. They bought the cistern pump and stand there and pump water. Was that a relief. Then my uncles well was 210 feet deep. All at once one morning he come, it was cold, half a blizzard cold. And Pa said to my dad, said to him, what do you want here this morning so early? He said, when it's that darn cold. Well, he said, I ain't got no water. Oh, my dad said, remember what you said? You're crazy if taking here. He said, I can walk right over here now in the house and I can pump. Oh, that did it. That did it. Then we had to go up there and help with that, and then they'd have what they call a pipe catcher. Say, you and I would pull up these pipes as long as we could, And one guy had to be down here with a hammer and hit that pipe catcher so that they wouldn't fall down, so it stayed. Well, when they got so long, we had to turn them apart. They were 20-footers or 10-footer because you couldn't handle it no more. You always had to take 20 feet off or so you had a short that you could help it up. Because that's the only way we got them up is take them apart and then pull by hand, And the guy that was always the pipe catcher boy, he hit it so that pipe wouldn't slip away. And then we'd turn it apart, what we could do, and lay them down and finally find what was wrong down below. See, and you have to have a hole in the pipe that comes down pretty far down or else it freezes shut. See, so it runs off the water so it don't freeze. And that was froze shut there, that hole. See, then that water didn't drain down to the bottom. Okay. It stayed up wherever it froze there. See, then the water wouldn't come and you were done. So that's what happened a lot. If you didn't punch a hole in, you were in trouble in the wintertime. Because in the summer it didn't hurt. But as soon as it got cold, and then you had to have a hole in the pipe so it would run off before it freezes. That was important because, you're 20 below and you fool with the pipes and the water, and that was murder. That was bad. But our well was our only 20, that's 22 feet deep, and our other well is 20 feet deep. We got 3 wells. And
the
then
one that you dug in 1934 is still...
That's still going. We put in a new box when we dug it, when we were done. And then when that box was going bad, my dad said, now we're going to fix it different. Okay. It was the 3rd of July, and we were all raring to go to the 4th of July. And Pa said, we're going to have a tough job today. Oh, I said, why do we have to do it today? I was older than I didn't want to sit home here
you had plans
working.
Today.
Yeah. And he said, we're going to cement. Oh, we're going to cement. Okay. What are we going to cement? Well, he said there's a new box in, and there was about this much room on each side around, the box. He said, that's going to be filled with cement. Oh, my goodness. I said, no, that's a big deal. That takes a lot of cement and a lot of sand and a lot of work. Yeah, he said, but if we want to go to the 4th of July, he says, we got to get it done. I thought, boy, isn't that a nice how do you do?
So did you get it done in time to
You
go?
bet we did. You bet. Why, we worked a lot harder, I and 2 of my cousins. We worked a lot harder than we did for a long time because they call it Salt Lake over west of Streeter. And they have big deals there, They had a roller skating arena and all kinds of stuff. Give airplane rides and horseshoe tournaments and whatever come along, They had a pavilion there. There was dances there too all the time. And then my dad was kind of a political guy. He'd go over there and campaign. He used to do that, yeah.
He was into politics.
Old Bill Langer. Have you ever heard of him?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, he was over there. He promised everything, and I said to my dad sometimes, I don't think that'll all happen. No, he said, the only thing that'll help is him to get in office. But that was used to be a big deal. Then you'd have a boat. You had boat rides. Cost you 10 cents. You get a boat ride across the whole lake and back. That was a big deal. Airplane rides.
So it's a different picture now.
Yeah, there was horseshoe tournaments. It was a good place. And all at once, the water, they wanted to put fish in. And that would have been a nice place to fish.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
No fish lived. And I couldn't find. It was salt water. It was salty. Oh. Yeah. That was a bad thing with the pavilions that they built, some places to sit and eat and stuff. And, wood wasn't that easy to get or, that much till later on. But the steel would rust right away on the salt. They would never last long. They'd put steel piping in, for corners and build little eating spots and picnic tables and stuff. But the steel would always rust off. And now, since we had that so much water, now everything's broke. No, nothing there no more.
Yeah, we went up there.
The road is underwater for years already. We drive over there, say, maybe once every 2 years or so to look, but that's all. Yeah, they had the roller skating deals. They had a lot of good deals going there. Huh. Race horses over there, everything. And everything was there. Yeah, I had a good pony. I won quite a few. But when I got bigger and then, then I didn't race no more. Then they didn't do that. Then they had different things going. I had a bronc. Paint was his name. My dad bought some broncs in 35. Now, we'd always have to go in the stockyard and get them. They'd come by train from Montana. And the guy that sold them in there, that was the boss over them, he said to me, you got to take this little colt along. No, I said, I didn't want no little colt. I said, I wanted big horses, something that I can ride in a year or two. No, he said, you got to take that little colt home. And we milked quite a few cows, and it was late in the fall already. And he said, you got to take that little colt. He said, the mother don't have no milk, he said, and it'll die. Okay, I said, I'll come in and get it. So we got our other broncs home. I drove in with the wagon and put the little colt in the wagon box and took him home. I took him and put him in with the little pale calves from the milk cows, put him in there. They'd get feed in their milk. Well, he didn't drink no milk, but he drank water and then feed. I had him in there all winter, with him, and he was a little shyster like that. Anyway, so he got out, and I kept him, and finally he was a 2-year-old. Okay, now we're going to go to work. So I broke him. I got pictures of that horse. That's the best pony I ever had, and I had a lot of them. That was the best pony I ever had. My dad bought some cattle from Wyoming that they shipped in here, cows, whiteface. My dad was off a Hereford man, and they were nice cows. They were young, but they were wild as all get out, too. So whenever a rainstorm come, they just went with the rain. They kept walking. They threw the fences just like nothing happened, Walking. Well, Dad said you better get ready because you know what'll happen. Sure as heck. Right out to the fence. Then they already had it broken. We're going east. In the rain. And that happened pretty near every time. I had to go and get him. I got him home. brought them in here in this little fence so we could watch them. But didn't last too long. One of them would break out, they'd all go. Until later on, well, they got better, and we had more cows, and they kind of stayed together. At first, they wouldn't mix with the other cattle. They were alone all the time. And it got a little better. But then we got it so that some of them were so hard milking that the little calves couldn't drink. You know, that was so hard milking. And you could see the little calf should have been nicer, and it wasn't. And then there was green grass already, you know, and that. My dad said, there's something wrong. So we'd get these cows in, and we'd have a woven fence, you know, a high woven fence. Well, they stayed in that pretty good. But then we had to catch them and put them in the barn and see what's the matter here. But they were so hard milking, you had a hard time to get milk out of them by hand. And the little calf would never get it, you know. So then all of them were sold. We didn't keep any of them no more. They raised pretty calves, but they got so they were hard milking. Then we didn't. Then my dad got some roan shorthorn. He bought at an auction sale, and then we just bought them kind instead of them western cattle. Then there was some more guys that bought some, but that never did last. It seemed it was the same thing on a lot of places, that it was so hard milking. They had a good frame, the cattle were good, like, you know, like you'd say they're good bred up cattle, but they didn't milk so hard. And that died out, but we used to milk a lot. That's what I didn't like to do. I didn't mind it in the summer, but I did in the winter. You had to baby them along all the time. You had to give them good feed. You had to have good hay. And cleaning the barn was the worst mess. You know, if it was a little cold, they were in the barn, you know, day and night. You know. Sometimes for months, they never were out. You say Thanksgiving, from Thanksgiving on till the 1st of March, they weren't out very often, just certain days. And that got tiresome too. And it wasn't that the range cows, we had range cows too, but that was not the idea, to chase them in a shed and forget them. All had to be tied. Everything had to be tied, range cows and all. Well, they don't do it no more, but at that time we did. Yeah. We had everything in the barns. Of course, we had blizzards, sometimes 3 days in a week. A lot of times. You had to have them in a good place, otherwise they'd lost them.
Yeah. You had mentioned using cow manure for heat. What was that?
Pardon?
You mentioned to Will on the break using cow manure.
Oh, the cow?
Heat.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, that was, you know, we'd have a barn. It was about 8 feet high. That was all boarded shut on the sides and a door in the south end. And then we put some woven wire on the top for the roof. And then we took flax straw and put it on there. So that was a real nice warm barn. It was really a warm barn. We had a door in there, pretty big door, and that we could close and everything. And at night, we had a big straw pile thrashed. They'd be in the straw pile, and when the weather got tough, they always went down in the barn.
Okay.
That was a relief. Then we didn't have to at least manure every day. But then in the spring, when it was nice and we'd have packed that manure real good, I had to go in there with 4 horses and ride around in there till I had everything solid, you know. So it was packed, yeah. Then we'd stab it and make chips about this wide and about that long, you know, so they'd fit in the stove. That was about the worst job I ever hated, was that. But then we had to do it. And we'd take it out and stack it nice over the summer, you know, so it would keep. That was firewood. That was burning.
You mentioned using also, I heard corn cobs. That's something
Yeah.
that was common?
That was a quick fire. If you had corn cobs, they'd really burn quick. You could get the coffee pot hot right away.
So did the Misc and the corn cobs create like a smell in the house at all? I mean, did it?
No, they were dry then. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. See, we'd feed hogs corn in the fall, just the cobs, and they'd eat them off, and then they'd be put there, and then in the spring, summer, you'd want a quick fire or something, use the corn cobs. That worked good.
So you've talked about a number of chores that you really disliked doing when you were growing up. Were there some that you didn't mind so much?
Pardon?
Were there some chores that you didn't mind doing?
Yeah, there was.
Such as?
But there was most of them that weren't so good.
Most of them you didn't like?
Yeah. Well, we used to milk cows outside, not in the barn, in the summer. We'd call it a cow fence, Put all the milk cows in there, and then we'd sit down and milk. They'd stand there and you'd sit and milk. But, rain or shine, rain, and that didn't work so good.
How long would it take you to milk the cows in the morning?
Well, it depends on how many we milked, but it took quite a while till you had everything done with the milking, separating, feeding the calves and stuff. We had to get up pretty early to get going.
What time would you usually get up in the mornings?
Oh, my dad used to be real early. I didn't get up quite that early when I was smaller. 5 o'clock was his time. He was done.
Okay.
Yeah, he was done.
If you could take me through it, what would a typical day be, say in September? What time would you get up, and how would your day go?
Well, we had to get up early then too,
Okay.
because there was so many things to do. You had made hay, but you didn't have it hauled home and all that. You had to haul the hay home closer so you weren't so far away from home in winter. So we always hauled a big bunch home in September and October when it was nice. And then we had threshers. We'd had thresh. That was a job just by itself. The guy that had the thresh machine, he had about 10 farmers or 12 to thresh out. So everybody helped keep this rig going. We'd move to here, everybody'd work. We'd move to the next guy, and that's the way we kept it up till we were done.
Okay. So you would go
Then,
and help all the neighbors out too, and then
yeah.
help out. Okay.
And if you was the last one last year, you were the first one this year.
Okay.
So you didn't, it wasn't.
So
It was always done fairly. We went from one to another, how we did. Yeah.
When you think back to your childhood, do you remember who your friends were, some of your friends, your childhood friends?
Oh, yeah, I had a lot of them, but I even hate to say it. I had a lot of young buddies, but there's only one that I can say that's still alive.
Who's that?
One of my cousins
Okay.
that we chummed together with a
Most
lot.
of them have since passed away.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
When you talk about doing pastime activities, did your father or mother ever play with you as a child?
Oh, yes.
What types
Yeah.
of things did you do with your...
Oh, I don't know what they call them, marble games, but we had marble games.
Okay.
They played rook, what the card game, rook, and
Never heard of that one. How do you play that one?
you never heard that one?
Uh-uh.
Rook, yeah, that was a game from 1 to 15 cards. I mean, from 1 to up to 15.
Really?
And then there was a joker in the bunch, so that when you played the game, that counted 20.
Oh.
That was, Everybody wanted the Joker, you know. Yeah, that was a big game. I know my folks, they'd go up to different places and they'd have that rook game. Cold, going and sledding, go up a couple miles here and there. Yeah, we always had some fun.
When you remember going to town, what type of activities would you do with your friends in town?
When we'd go to town?
Yeah, what type of things would you do
I'd go,
town?
being I was alone, I'd go to my cousins, you know, and in the wintertime we'd all go sled riding, and in the summer we'd always have, well, they had ball games and stuff like that, you know.
What type, like baseball?
Yeah,
Baseball.
yeah, baseball.
Okay.
And they'd play ball. And
Was your family very religious when you were growing up?
religious?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my mom was. My dad too, but my mom was stricter.
What religion were you raised?
See, we went to the Baptist church. They were Baptist. And yeah, she was always a little tough. You didn't have to dare to say too much out of the way.
How far was the Baptist church from the house?
Well, it was right in Gackle here.
Okay.
Yeah, it was right in town. And it was in 31. That was too small a church. They built one in 31 or 32. They built a new one. I know my dad helped there when they built the church. That was a slow progress too, a big deal.
Did you help with that?
But my dad did. I was there. I'd have to get some horses sometimes because they would scraper would use horses to scrape most of the dirt away. And then I'd have to get more horses or something a lot of times. My uncle had some, but he only had 4 at the time, and then they had to have more. Had a scraper there where they had 4 horses on a loan on one deal. So they had to get more horses. That was kind of a slow deal there too, but I mean, they got it done. Then they got the cement. At least the cement wasn't that hard to get, you know. I mean, the train would bring it then and stuff for you. Yeah, that used to be a big deal.
So did your family go to church every Sunday?
Yeah, pretty near every Sunday, unless, well, in the winter not, you know, but yeah, otherwise, yeah, they would.
Did you attend Sunday school?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Oh, that was good, you know, but that was a lot of it, or most of it, was German.
Oh.
You know, yeah, oh yeah.
Services were in German.
ABCs were all learned in German. Oh yeah, oh yes.
Okay.
That was a must. Oh yeah. That we had to know.
What about confirmation? What was confirmation like?
Well, we didn't have confirmation. The Baptist people like the Lutheran people do.
Oh, okay.
We never. They called a Bible school, you know, for a week or so.
Okay.
That's what they called that. That was, but confirmation, we never had that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Now they called it Bible school. That was usually about a week or 10 days at the most, but about a week.
And what types of things did you do in Bible school?
Well, we had to learn different things. We had to learn to make stuff, and always you had to know your German there too.
Do you remember when the church switched from German to English?
Pardon?
Do you remember when they switched to English?
Yeah. It was English too, but they'd say, well, you got to talk it in German too, so you knew it.
So they did both languages.
Yeah,
but it was
right.
You had to learn
Yeah.
Okay.
And more it was English as you got older, you know, but
So
I mean, we used to always talk German, everybody.
So it wasn't like a sudden change, it was kind of a gradual
Yeah,
change into
right.
English?
As you got older, you got like, about like school, you know. Yeah.
When you were growing up, what was a traditional funeral like? What were the funerals like back then?
Well, the funerals were that the people that were at your house till the funeral was, the dead people.
Okay.
They never had none. Well, houses in town here, the people, they kind of did. But I mean, to involve or nothing, they had them in the house, say, 2 days or 3, and then they got buried.
Okay.
They didn't have no place then.
So they didn't have like a funeral home?
No, they didn't. Then later on, Houts, they started it up later on, the funeral homes, and they're still running them now.
Do you remember what
generation?
Do you remember the first funeral you went to?
Pardon?
Do you remember the first funeral that you went to?
Well, to my grandpa's, that's about all I knew then.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there were some younger ones too that died. I don't know what flu deal or something
the
that
epidemic
have it.
in 1918?
Yeah, that was. But a lot of people weren't very old, and they were, died.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was nobody that I'd know of, say, was 65 or something like that alive. Not much of that at that time.
That would be considered
They died
old.
early, yeah. The grandpa that I didn't know, he died when he was 58 years old, and the other one I don't remember offhand, but he wasn't living long either, age-wise. Yeah, that.
When you think back to your childhood, what was your favorite holiday?
Oh, Christmas. Santa Claus,
How did your family celebrate Christmas?
Oh, I always got a lot of stuff. The only thing is, at last, I didn't believe in Santa Claus quite good no more. I'll never forget my dad. I said, well, I don't know. I don't think Santa Claus was here this year. Oh, yeah, he said he still rides on the roof. I said, I didn't see nothing on the roof.
How old were you?
Oh, I don't know. I was getting up there. And then he kind of laughed. After that, it was no more Santa Claus.
No more Santa Claus?
Yeah.
What type of gifts did you usually get at Christmas time?
I didn't hear you.
What type of gifts would you get?
Oh, shoes, stockings, and gloves and
Practical
stuff.
gifts?
Keep you warm. Yeah, and candy too, but I mean, usually, Santa Claus usually was pretty good.
Did you have a Christmas tree?
Yes, we always had a tree.
How was that usually decorated? What would you use?
Well, we had popcorn, strings, a whole lot of stuff. Candles, but you didn't dare to burn them. Handled with holders, but you didn't dare to burn it long for fear the Christmas tree would light. As soon as you'd open your gifts and have the tree on and look at it a little bit this way and that way, then we had to blow the candles out for fear that it would burn.
Would your family do anything special for Christmas Eve?
Oh, yeah.
What would you do?
Well, first we went to the program, and then we come home, and then we had pretty much to do what we wanted to do.
Was the Christmas Eve program at church?
Yes,
Yeah.
they had treat there, and we'd say our pieces, and now you get up there and say your piece loud so the people hear it.
Did you like doing that?
Well, not right away. Not right away. It was, you weren't used to it. The church was full, then you'd have to walk up and up to the altar, turn around, and all them people it was kind of scary a while. Of course, the older you got, you know better it was.
Practice.
Yeah, yeah. But then I used to hear that a lot when the littler ones that go up. Well, maybe went up for the third time, say. But everything was quiet, but still you couldn't hear. And that's the first thing they heard about. You didn't say it loud enough. We couldn't hear you back there. That was said a lot, too.
So when you would have your Christmas celebration, would your grandparents come over, or was it just your mom and dad and you?
No, a lot of times there was different uncles would, and we'd go for Christmas dinner to one uncle or aunt, and then to the other. We never had it at the same place. All
okay, so it'd go house to house
yes,
each year.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What was a traditional Christmas dinner?
Well, it was usually turkey and pork, whatever there was. I mean, it was not just one kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you think about Sundays after church, what was a Sunday dinner?
Oh, there were, if we'd go someplace, I mean, or eat someplace, well, we had a lot of fun us young guys.
Okay.
Play ball or anything that come along, what we did. In the wintertime, we'd be out sled riding, but in the summer it was.
A lot of sled riding.
Yes, we did that. They had a good place in town,
Okay.
a hill there that would iced it down. Iced it down, and boy, that was a good place. And there was a lot of that. It's the wintertime. They would be doing that, riding sleigh.
When you think of Easter, how did your parents celebrate Easter when you were growing up?
Well, put there everything that was to get today we had.
Okay.
Yeah, we had big meals, I know.
A lot of food?
A lot of food, never short of food.
Did you have an Easter basket in the morning, or Easter eggs? Or
Oh, yeah, we had that, yes. Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, that all worked out pretty good.
And you've talked about 4th of July, going up to Salt Lake. Would you ever go into Gackle for 4th of July?
Oh, yes, when we had 4th of July's in Gackle.
What was that like in Gackle?
Oh, yeah, it was all racing or running, and you'd get money or you'd get prize, That was a big deal.
Okay.
You'd win, and if you'd win the 50 cents or a quarter, boy, that was pretty good.
Were you good at the foot races?
Oh, yes, yeah.
How about birthdays? Did your family celebrate birthdays?
Oh, yeah.
How was that celebrated?
Well, there was a bunch invited, and it worked out good. As we got older, then they kind of quit. They thought, hey, that's enough birthdays for you.
Did you get a lot of gifts for your birthdays, or was it more of a food celebration?
Food and others, but food was the main thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something that I've heard was common back then is having a lot of people come over to make sausage.
Oh, yes.
Or butcher. Did your family do that?
Oh, yes. My dad helped lots of people like that. Yes, butchering, making sausage. And,
did you ever help with that process?
Oh, yes. I had to help, too.
What role would you take in making sausage?
I don't want to tell you. No, I can tell you, but cleaning?
The intestines?
Yes. That was kind of pour water and flush it, pour water, and that was a sickening job. But then after it was all done, that sausage was good.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's right. But that was a big deal, most everybody helped each other. It's a lot of places. I know my uncles, my dad had helped them, and they'd help us, and, that was a big deal. Oh, and that was an old early morning job till night,
All day job.
getting everything done, Sometimes you butcher 2-3 pigs at a time, And
So did you have pigs on your farm as well when you were growing up?
Yeah.
You had pigs? So you had horses, cows, pigs. What else did you
Yeah,
have?
we had turkeys, ducks, chickens, geese. We had that all too.
So would you say that your dad then was a rancher plus a grain farmer plus any other odds and ends?
Yeah, we had everything that was everything.
Everything and anything?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you always had chickens and ducks and geese and turkeys and stuff like that for.
When you think back to your mother's home cooking, what type of dishes did she usually prepare?
Well, when we'd say, well, we want something like this today or that, she always did. It was always good.
So she always asked you what you wanted, and then she fixed it
right.
up?
Yeah.
How would your meals be served? Would you sit down at a table together for dinner? Mm-hmm. Could you talk over dinner, or was it a quiet time?
No, it was mostly quiet.
Okay.
Quiet. Not always, but most of the time like that.
Would your mother serve the food and put it on the table, and then she'd clean it up afterwards?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was your favorite dish when you were growing up? Your favorite meal?
And the soup was noodle soup.
Noodle soup?
Yeah, I loved that the best.
Okay.
And meat was my big part. Meat and potatoes and the soup I liked a lot.
Okay. How about for dessert? What would you?
Pardon?
How about for dessert? What would you want for dessert?
Oh, pie, cake, had to have cookies. Yeah, right.
Anything
Whatever.
Sweet?
Anything sweet. Yeah, that's right.
What was your least favorite meal?
The sweet.
No.
Or
for dinner, what would you just dread that your mom would make? Something that was.
Oh, pies. I loved them.
Oh no. Least favorite though. Like, what didn't you like? Something that you didn't like to eat.
All kinds of sweets. They were always good for me.
Was there anything that your mom made that was gross or not so good to eat?
Yeah, that I didn't like at the time. Pumpkins.
Pumpkins?
I didn't like pumpkin. I didn't like pumpkin.
Okay.
Placenta, they called them.
Oh. Okay.
Placenta.
Okay.
Them I didn't care for too much. My dad liked them, but I didn't like them.
So you had to eat them at times because your dad liked them.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, that. I never was too much for pumpkin pie or something made out of pumpkin.
Do you still dislike it today?
Yeah, I can eat it today.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that you don't eat when you're young, and when you're older, you eat them. I mean, I like them.
It's getting to be tomatoes. I used to hate them, or I used to love them. Now I hate them. Now I'm getting back to liking them a little bit.
Oh, I always did like tomatoes. I always did.
What?
And the onions, I love them.
Really?
But.
Did your mom do a lot of canning when you were growing up?
Yes, a lot. We did a lot of canning.
What types of foods would she can?
Oh, meat, a lot of meat we'd can, and ready to go. That was number one. I mean, so you had over the summer, canned meat. Okay. Because then there was no refrigerators and all that kind of,
You didn't have to worry about it spoiling. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. And then the chicken. We'd have chickens. Well, we'd go out and butcher a chicken, and eat it too right away. And there was no refrigerators or nothing, and that was still the best meat. You'd go out and catch a chicken and butcher it, make some noodle soup and chicken.
What are some of the traditional German dishes that your mom would make? Some German food.
Oh, God. She made Nefla, everything that was to make, could make it. Yeah.
Was your mom a good cook?
Yeah, she was. A lot of the things, like beans or stuff, I didn't eat when I was young. I didn't. I don't know. I didn't. Never. Meat and potatoes and soup, that was about mine. But, like carrots and peas and stuff like that. Well, we had the garden and everything. But I never cared too much for that stuff. I don't know why. And now I like it. But then I didn't. I don't know.
How about making wine or beer or root beer? Did your parents ever do that?
Yeah, my dad would make some homemade beer.
Okay.
Yeah, we had homemade beer.
How would you do that?
Oh, that was, I don't know what all they used. Ruth, you maybe know.
Yeah, maybe.
We made beer ourselves too.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was always good. The only thing was you didn't have no refrigerators at the time. That we hung it, we'd put a pail down the well with a rope on, and then we'd keep it cold.
Oh.
And then they'd come home come home and have a cold beer. Boy, that tasted good. But that's the only way we could keep it cold. I mean, that it was good, We'd have it in the basement, but that wasn't. No, it wouldn't keep it cold.
Okay.
And it was about 85 or so outside, 90. Oh, good beer, cold beer tasted good.
Oh, yeah. Refreshing.
Then we hung, like I say, with a pail. You'd get about 3 or 4 bottles in a pail and then a rope and put it down just on the water, not deep, just at the bottom. Oh, that tasted good. Then we made root beer too. That was a good drink too. If you got it mixed right. Well, once we had some, and it was real good, but it was so wild. We had to carry it with caution, otherwise, boom! There goes the cover. Oh, that was wild. I was sleeping at night all at once. Boom! Wake up, another bottle busted. I'll never forget that. I don't know what we did wrong. I don't know what it was, but it was something. It was wild. It was wild.
Entertainment. Changing the subject a little bit. Looking towards school, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you always want to be a farmer?
Well, yes. I wanted to be a farmer, but I didn't want to seed nothing. I was a cattleman and a horseman.
Okay.
I wanted to have that instead of farming a whole bunch.
Okay.
We did some of that too, but well, a lot of that land was all prairie when my dad bought it.
How much land did your dad purchase?
Pardon?
How much land did your dad have?
Yeah, we got, we had more, but we sold some that was way off. We got, he had about 900 acres then.
Okay.
But it was so far away from here.
So how many?
It took part and a half a day to get to the place.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was a quarter, 160 acres that we had way over west.
Okay.
And then he sold it to other, and then we bought some over here east of us, closer. And we always had to go across the lake to get to it. Everything worked fine until we had to go over with the drill, to seed with. That was down too low, and a lot of times the water would get in the box. Then we had a lot of trouble. We'd have to dry that box out, clean it out good to put the wheat in it or whatever you seeded so it wouldn't stick.
Okay.
That was the bad part. That's why he never kept it. We had that trouble. And you couldn't go across anything with the railroad unless you had a road, and then they made a approach or planked it so you could drive across. But in between, that was always a mile away from each other. So you had to drive an extra mile to get to that. And then when the water come, then it was double bad.
Oh my goodness.
It used to be a lot of trouble. That he got 80 acres from his dad, and that was right next to the other. See, and then later on we sold. He sold it and got land over here because of that water business and stuff. And it was always getting worse instead of better. As the years got better, we had water and lakes and stuff, and then that didn't work good to move across.
So how many acres do you and Ruth have now?
I've got 720 that I've got now.
So you actually have a good portion of it still.
Yeah.
You were just talking about a story, and to quote you, you said you were ornery. What was one of the things that you did to your teachers when it was cold and you wanted to go down to the lake? What was one of the things that you did to your male teacher?
I didn't get all of it.
Can you repeat the story that you just shared with us?
Yeah.
About your teacher that you tricked into going to the lake? Can you reshare that for us on tape?
Well, I don't care. You want me?
Go ahead. What was that? What did you do?
Well, we tipped the toilet once, and then
You did not.
we had trouble there too.
What did you do?
We tipped it, and we shouldn't have, but we did. But we had to set it up. We had to set it up again, but it wasn't the same no more. Teacher said there was too much wind coming in the bottom.
What was his reaction when you tipped the toilet?
Oh, that didn't go over so good at all, but we had to stay in. One of the guys had to kneel on some coal, and kneel on him, the instigator. And they wondered, a lot of times the parents would wonder, how come that would happen, that they tip a toilet? There was one family, they lived about from here, maybe halfway up the road by the school.
Okay.
And they seen that. They wondered why that happened, The parents of the...
Wondered why?
Well, they went to the teacher. What all he said, I don't know to this day, but we had to set it up and get it in order.
Did you like going to school when you were a kid?
Yes, I did. I didn't mind school at all, and then later on, what I didn't like was later on our school closed. We had 28 kids, and all at once we were down to 5. And then the school board said, hey, this is not going to work. So there was from our school to the next school was 1.5 miles away to the north.
And it was a mile to the first school and then another 1.5 miles.
Yes. So they said we got to go to that school. There were more kids up there than in our school, so we had to go up to the other school. And that's what I didn't like. It was not the school part, but it was the driving and stuff. And then in the winter, then I had to hook up the team and take the sled, and I'd pick them up on their way up to the other school.
Oh my goodness.
That part I didn't like, and we had to do that 2 years in a row.
So did you always take horses to school, or would you take
Yeah.
a car sometimes to school?
Well, not in the winter,
Okay.
That roads were closed, and that's the way it stayed. And then we always had to drive with a sled, but they were all north of us. They weren't too far out of the way, but still I had to pick them all up. And that's what I didn't like about school then. I'd be the last one to get home, and it'd be pretty late, getting home, unloading everybody and then going home.
So what grade were you in when they closed your school here and that you had to go up north?
Yeah.
How old were you when that happened?
Well, I think I was in the 5th or 6th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was 2 years, I think it was. Anyway, something like that.
So the rural schools that you went to, were they a one-room schoolhouse? Was it a one-room schoolhouse?
Ours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was all grades in one room?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, we had usually always all eighth.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there was always eighth grade. We weren't. Then at last, there was sometimes 4 or 5 that graduated, too.
Okay.
And we always got less and less. And then nobody said too much, and all at once, school board said it's not going to work. We have to go up there. So that's what happened to us. And then they had election every April, and then they sold our school barn and the schoolhouse. And one of the neighbors to the northeast here, he bought the schoolhouse and they moved it, and he made a car shed out of it, and that's how everything went to pieces there. They didn't save. They should have saved some schoolhouse and redone them like they should have done, but at that time it didn't.
No,
The only thing we had for a while was they'd have the elections, at the schools on certain days, election. But then they sold it, and that didn't work no more. So then they started going to Gackle, to the schoolhouse there, and have the elections and stuff like that. So that's where they still keep them in the school in Gackle, election.
So when you were going to school, would you say you were a good student? Did you do well in school?
Well, I liked it, and always had good grades, but it was the idea how to get there.
Yeah.
It got so that, hey, do we have to do this, or do we have to ride here? I drove with the car too, but there was never no decent roads,
Yeah.
Well, if it rained, I knew, I got to ride and go with the horse like always. And then in the wintertime, it wasn't so bad. We had to ride straight across here. But in the summer, then the pastures were used, and I rode in pasture. Then we had to put the fence up, and the cattle were in there, and then you had to go way around the road part to ride to. You couldn't take no shortcuts. That's when it got kind of monotonous.
Yeah, I can imagine.
See, and then school was only 7 months, for long years, and we'd only have, say, like a half an hour at noon. Well, that was a good deal in the winter. We got home earlier. But then all at once they had 8 months of school, and that was a month longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it started earlier in the fall and lasted longer in the spring.
What types of things would you do during your noon recess, for your noon break? Would you?
What we did?
Yeah.
Well, we'd play ball a lot.
Okay.
We'd play ball, and then the girls would have their game, and the boys, we played a lot of horseshoe and stuff like that.
Okay.
Ball, we played to all of us, but horseshoe was another big game wherever you went.
Okay.
Especially when we were older, that, we could get in, go to, over to Salt Lake, and you could get in the game. You'd win, you'd win some money if you and your partner would win,
Okay.
Would beat the other guys, so they had to pay 2 bits or 50 cents or what, later on in the years. So we always had a horseshoe game pretty hot there. Oh, and like my dad and the older guys, they used to play real tough games.
Huh.
Then they got paid, and the 4th of July, that went over big, stuff like that.
Was a big horseshoe player.
Yeah, he liked that over there.
What was your favorite subject in school?
Mine?
Yeah.
Spelling.
Spelling
I liked.
So you're a good speller?
Well, I used to be. I wouldn't say that no more. Arithmetic wasn't too bad for me either. I liked it. I didn't mind school. I didn't really mind school. The only thing is, when you got older, things changed so much in town, school, towards our schools. They had more extra things, activities, more activity stuff than we did.
Okay.
When my uncle stayed out here, Ray, he went to high school and stuff, and then he took me along to school when I started school, you know, and that I went to school, and nobody said nothing. Everybody was satisfied. All at once, the teacher gave Ray a note that he was supposed to give to my dad. And Ray lost it or forgot it. I don't know whatever happened really, but anyway, he didn't have no note. All at once, teacher come and said, hey, he gave me a note too. Now, and then she said, the lady said in town, teach, that we were supposed to give this to our dad and mom. Okay, so I did. Well, I read it, but I didn't know because that was Logan County, and we're in Stutzman County.
Okay.
So I gave it to my dad, and I said, what's really wrong, Dad? And he said, we have to pay tuition for me to go to school in Gackle. He said, that's what this is about. Oh, I said, well, Uncle Ray got a note the other day, but did he ever give it to you? And he said, no. And I said, I know the teacher gave him one. I seen it, but I don't know what it said. And then he asked Ray, and Ray said, he lost it. And then he said, well, here. And he said, yeah, that's right. Being we were in Stutzman County, my dad would have to pay tuition for me to go to Logan County, to school. Well, Dad said, why, I'm not going to do that when we got the school right here. So
yeah.
That didn't. So I went 3 or 4 days, and then I had to go back up here.
How old were you when that happened?
Pardon?
How old were you?
That was when I first started, right away. First started
Okay.
right away, yeah. Yeah. And then, well, I don't know what the tuition, what it would have been or not, but anyway, that's when it took place. And, well, Dad said, no, I'm not doing that. We got school up here. And then that's what happened, and I went up here.
And you completed the 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
And then you stayed and worked on the farm, right? You didn't
Yeah.
go on to high school.
No, I didn't. 8th grade. I went through 8th grade, yeah.
Okay. You did back home.
But there was a lot of work, and I could do pretty near everything already, you know. My dad could send me out to plow or all that. And
being an only child.
And I was kind of tired of school at that time, too. God, I always wanted to learn to play accordion. And then there wasn't enough money for me to get accordion. Oh, I love accordion music.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, and I like this play. God, I couldn't get an accordion.
Did you ever learn how to play?
Pardon?
Did you ever learn how to play?
No, not the accordion. I played the guitar, but that didn't interest me. The accordion was my favorite.
Huh.
That
So
was,
did your mom or dad play any musical instruments?
my dad was pretty good on the mouth organ.
Oh,
He played them. He played them pretty good. But I like to hear him. I'd like to hear him, but I didn't like to play it. I don't know. I tried a lot of times, but I didn't. I didn't really like it. But the accordion, that was my favorite. Oh, God, that was good music. Then when we got older, we went to the dances, and then accordion music was better. Yeah.
When you went to school, were the lessons in English or were they in German?
The teachers?
The teachers, did they speak
No,
English or German?
the one that I had first, Doreen Amick, she didn't know German at all. She didn't know German. And then there was the other ones they were mostly all German too, but they talked good English too. They went there, yeah.
So during your lessons, were your lessons in English then?
Yeah, everything was in English, yeah.
Could you speak German in school or?
Well, we weren't supposed to. I mean, they didn't want us to speak German. But when we was kids that'd be out, away from the teacher, it'd still talk German if we wanted to, but wasn't supposed to. But
Did you get into a lot of mischief when you were in school?
no, not too much. Okay. Not too much.
I think somebody just is shocked to hear that. Let's see. What types of food would you take for your noon hour?
For my lunch?
Yeah.
Oh, apples, sandwiches, and that always was in them. Sandwich and apple, and sometimes candy, a few.
You really did have a sweet tooth, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
Still does?
Yeah. Yeah. The only thing is, if you did in the cloakroom where you hung your coats and stuff, and there you put your lunch bucket, but you'd better not forget it in the wintertime because that wasn't heated. It was froze hard.
Did you do that a couple times?
Yeah, it happened. You bet. Forgot to take it in. Then we had other than that, and then we had it beside the stove so it wouldn't freeze for sure. Schoolhouses were drafty, ours anyway. That was cold, and when it was 20 below, it felt like 20 below in there too. So especially you'd get out to a corner where, God darn it was cold.
What did your schoolhouse look like? Can you describe it for me? When you walk in the door, what was there?
There was a cloakroom on each side, okay. Girls on one, boys on the other. Then it was all one room, and they had the stove about in the middle of the building, out at school. Yeah, a big round oak stove, they called it. Round, you could fill in a lot of coal. But the corners were always cold. You had to sit around and close to the stove to keep warm. The outside corner you'd have froze. Oh, God darn it. I didn't like them. They weren't, well, there was no insulation, or nothing like that.
So how were the desks set up? Or then were they kind of positioned close to the stove?
Well, yeah, at that, but otherwise they were in line, that way. But when it was cold, we'd move your desk up to you so you could study and stuff. Other than that, they were lined up. First grade, second, third, fourth, yeah. Yeah. They had them separate. I mean, that they was, first grade alone and second grade and that way.
How would the teacher teach with having so many grades in one room?
Well, that's the way it was all over. And in the other school when we had to move up, that was too. That was quiet. It was quiet. Then there was a superintendent that come around yearly. Logan was his name. Sidney Logan. Locken. Yeah. He'd stand out by the door, and hey, there was too much talking. He'd be listening and then say, hey, he'd come in, and then the teacher would get hell, and then we would get hell.
Chain effect, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. He used to be pretty strict, but he was good. He was doing his duty.
Did you have a lot of homework?
Yeah, a lot of times we did. In the winter, well, we didn't go out as much, up there. Then you'd stay in and you'd do some of your other your work to catch up. It was not too good to go out when the cold there. And so we'd do our work, a lot of it, especially the stuff that you had first the next morning or so, a lot of it.
Do you remember who your favorite teacher was?
Yes, I know. Lefty Roof was his name. He was a good teacher.
Why was he your favorite?
He was easy to get along with. He was, I could say he was never grouchy or anything. Of course, we had some grouchy ones too, but not him. He was about the nicest guy. But we only had him 2 years, then he moved to Fargo.
Really?
Yeah, then he moved to Fargo.
So did you go through a lot of teachers then?
Well, not when they were from Gackle, no, we didn't.
Okay.
Only if you had them from out of town, strangers, they'd only stay, say, a year or so,
Okay.
and then they would.
Okay.
Doreen Amick, she stayed a little longer, but I mean, other than that, they'd only be there a year, and then they didn't go for that farm school no more. Well, like it was hard for a lot of them. They didn't know how to drive or didn't have a car. Teachers, boarding, that was more or less the deal too. Because then the roads were no good. Well, when the roads were good, then the school was out. In April or last part of April or first part, then the roads would finally get good, but then school was out. And in the winter, well, there was never nothing open to school.
So would you say teachers were strict back then?
Pardon?
Were they strict back then, the teachers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How would they discipline a student who has misbehaved?
If we misbehaved.
Yeah, how did they discipline you?
Oh, I have to stay in a week or so.
Okay.
No recess for you.
Okay.
Do your work. Yeah. And if you had to go to the room, you had to wait till the other ones were in school. Then they'd let you out to the restroom when there was nobody around. You didn't dare to play with the bunch. You had to go.
Okay. Okay.
Ruth, she had a lot of trouble that way.
She was the troublemaker